Showing a softer side or showing a different side to your character. And all I would say is that I'm not going to change, but I want people to see the entire person that I am. And I want people to reserve and make their own judgments when they meet me.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And welcome to the real Peter Dutton, the Conservative head kicker and new opposition leader who was very busy last week ahead of his promotion, getting everyone to tell us what a lovely guy he is.
My Peter's a big softie.
Dutton's softer run.
Dutton 2.0.
I'll be a gentler and caring me.
The Dutton image makeover, which began last Thursday, came with smiling pictures of Peter and his family as they just happened to be strolling in a Brisbane park. And it carried one key message for the media.
Mr. Dutton said he would reveal a gentler side of his character.
Yes, the former Defence, Home Affairs and Immigration Minister who kept asylum seekers at bay, told us to prepare for war and warned that African gangs were terrorising Melbourne is actually a warm and cuddly character. Just ask his wife, Kiralee.
He has a great sense of humour, very dry and witty, but he also has an incredible compassion, particularly when it comes to the protection of women and children.
And in case that were not enough, Kiralee told The Australian that Peter is also an
amazing father and the kids adore him.
The Dutton PR Blitz also got a big run in the Nine newspapers with the same loving words from Kiralee.
Peter is an amazing father and the kids adore him. He has a great sense of humour, very dry and witty, but he also has an incredible compassion.
And what would a makeover be without words from the man himself, rehashed verbatim in many of the papers?
The Australian public can see the rest of my character, the side my family, friends and colleagues see.
So how did they end up with the same story? Answer, it was all in a press statement put out by Dutton the night before, with photographers told to be at a Brisbane park to get those happy snaps. So, what's the chance that it'll work? Let's just say it's not the first time that Dutton has tried to airbrush his appearance, nor is it the first time his wife has come to his aid. Back in 2019, when his tough immigration policy was making him enemies, she told us,
"My Pete's no monster."
And in 2018, in challenging Turnbull for the leadership, he gathered the press back to say,
It's nice to be in front of the cameras where I can smile and maybe show a different side, not here talking to you about border protection matters, etc.
And after missing out on the top job and retiring briefly to the backbench, he told Sky's Laura Jays that being out of the front line would allow him to show more of his lighter side.
I think I've, got a self-deprecating sense of humour and, I like a drink like anybody else and it's an opportunity for me to, I think now, talk a bit more about the other side that the public may not know.
But here we are, 4 years later, and his image problem clearly remains. So much so that this was the cartoon in The Australian last week on the day of his latest Liberal rebrand.
We paid the price for Morrison's unpopularity. What we need is someone cute and cuddly this time.
You rang?
And 3 days earlier, WA Labor Premier Mark McGowan had offered a free character assessment and sabotaged the makeover before it began, telling the media,
"He's an extremist, and I don't think he fits with modern Australia at all. And he doesn't seem to listen. He's extremely conservative. I actually don't think he's that smart."
And because WA is a one-paper town with an all-powerful premier, that message was duly repackaged for the front page of the West Australian. Yes, that is Peter Dutton dressed up as Lord Voldemort, and Mark McGowan as Harry Potter, the famous wizard. And soon, 7 News was jumping in as well.
Lord Voldemort, feared by children. And according to Labor's Tanya Plibersek, bearing a striking resemblance to Liberal MP Peter Dutton.
I'm saying he looks a bit like Voldemort. There'll be a lot of children who've watched a lot of Harry Potter films who'll be very frightened of what they're seeing.
In the new era of non-divisive politics, Prime Minister Albanese was quick to welcome Plibersek's apology. So, what chance the reset will work? We asked 3 communications experts for their views. Sue Cato, who has done work for the Liberals, said the change would need to be more than skin deep, telling Media Watch,
The electorate has made it clear that it is actions, not happy chat photos, that form their views.
And Toby Ralph, who has worked on several Liberal campaigns, warned that if the repositioning is seen to be fake, it will backfire.
You can claim you're a peacock, not a chook all you want. But over time, if you only claim but don't demonstrate, you'll end up being seen as a delusional chook, which is far worse.
And Lenda O'Shalom, a former Labor strategist in WA, where the Libs suffered a 10% swing against them, told us Dutton has a big task ahead.
It will be difficult to unstick a record spanning 2 decades, but after years of being portrayed as a hard right villain, Dutton really has no choice but to attempt to reset and negate his perceived weaknesses.
If Dutton is to win over voters with his new Mr Nice Guy, the Liberal leader may also need to build bridges with the media. In 2016, he had to apologise after calling political reporter Samantha Maiden a mad fucking witch in a text and accidentally sending it to her. And in 2018, he told Ray Hadley,
some of the crazy lefties at the ABC and on The Guardian, Huffington Post, can express concern and draw mean cartoons about me and all the rest of it. They don't realise how completely dead they are to me.
And this year he called The Guardian and other media trashy. If Dutton wants to have a broad appeal to voters, he will surely need to get at least some of the trashy, left-wing, mad witch media on side, and not just rely on 2GB, Sky News and the News Corp mastheads. We'll see how that goes. But out of the courts and legal action that has stopped a 9 blockbuster in its tracks, at least for now. And if you want to know what you're missing, here is a taster.
Deep inside an industry, getting more toxic by the second. You won't believe what's uncovered.
Where did you get that from?
60 Minutes.
Sounds exciting. But when viewers tuned into 60 Minutes to discover what toxic industry had been uncovered, all they got was this cryptic message from presenter Tom Steinfort.
And before we go, an apology. For legal reasons, we've been unable to bring you the investigation into the cosmetic surgery industry that we advertised during the week. However, we do hope to be able to broadcast that story soon.
That was a fortnight ago, but viewers are still waiting because the New South Wales Supreme Court has granted an extraordinary production order to a doctor and his company featured in the programme, in a move that legal experts say is a grave threat to free speech. So, what happened? Award-winning Age business reporter Adele Ferguson had been working with 60 Minutes on the investigation for months, and one of the people in her sights was a surgeon called Dr. Joseph Ajaka. He and his company, Cosmos Clinic, have a high profile thanks to many media appearances, including on this very programme back in 2019. Dr. Joseph Ajaka specialises in body sculpting and buttock augmentation, and he's got firm views on why big butts beat boobs hands down.
There's so many photos you can take with your bum. There's so many different angles you can use for Instagram. Right. With your breast, there's only one set of photos you can really take for Instagram. So it's all about the different photos they can take with the big bum.
Back then, we criticised Seven for promoting Dr. Ajaka's butt lift advocacy while failing to tell viewers of the many risks of the procedure. Dr. Ajaka told us he would happily have highlighted them if Seven had asked. Now, we don't know what's in the 60 Minutes story and whether it contained any credible allegations against Dr. Ajaka or his company, but we do know that when 60 Minutes emailed questions to Dr. Ajaka, his lawyers went to the New South Wales Supreme Court to try and kill the story, which the court effectively did, at least for now. As well as telling Nine it had to show its hand.
Joseph Ajaka successfully obtained a court order on Friday night compelling the Sydney Morning Herald, The Age and 60 Minutes to hand over draft copies of an investigation into the cosmetic surgery industry, which was due to air Sunday night.
That is almost unprecedented. Acting for the celebrity surgeon are 2 celebrity lawyers, Sue Chrysanthou and Rebecca Giles, who represented former Attorney General Christian Porter against the ABC. Chrysanthou told the court that the 60 Minutes promo, which aired before a deadline for Dr. Ajaka to respond to questions, showed Nine was not interested in his side of the story, claiming,
"This is prima facie evidence of malice. A genuine publisher would wish to present both sides of the story."
This allegation of malice goes to Dr. Ajaka's company's claims of injurious falsehood, a tort separate to defamation that considers the commercial impact on companies. The judge, who had not seen any of Nine's material, said the potential damage to Ajaka and his clinic made it necessary for Nine to hand over its story. As far as we can tell, this has only happened twice before. Once in 2010, in relation to Underbelly, and then in 2015, when mining magnate Gina Reinhardt took on Channel 9 over its doco-drama The House of Hancock.
Australia's richest person took Channel 9 to court today, demanding the network hand over a copy of the program before broadcast. A judge agreed, and depending on its contents, Mrs Reinhardt may now seek an injunction.
The programme aired with edits, after which Reinhardt sued for damages and 9 issued a grovelling apology, while agreeing never to air the show again. But while that may or may not be a guide to how this episode will end, the 60 Minutes case is very different. According to media lawyer Hannah Marshall,
the Ajaka judgment doesn't address the likelihood of falsity, which was central to the Reinhardt case and clear from the evidence. We're talking about investigated news stories by reputable journalists and not a docudrama. An inference of falsity, logically, must be much harder to find.
9 has appealed the decision in court and is also fighting it in its papers, with an editorial in the Sydney Morning Herald last Tuesday declaring,
"This is a worrying precedent with wide-ranging implications for journalism."
And journalists are also worried. 9's acclaimed investigative reporter Nick McKenzie called it one of the most alarming court decisions he's seen in 20 years as a journalist.
This will empower people who want to suppress stories to use the courts to do just that.
While the Australian's Gold Walkley winner Hedley Thomas said,
"Surely people who may feel wronged by investigations such as this one already have legal remedies in defamation, rather than attempting to interfere in what should be the media's unfettered right to publish without fear or favour."
The case has also renewed the push for defamation reform. In the New South Wales Parliament, former lawyer and Greens MLC Abigail Boyd said,
"The floodgates will open for the rich and powerful to wield the powers of the court if they suspect they won't like the story being told about them. If this order is upheld, it would send a chilling shockwave through the public interest journalism world to the detriment of our democracy and benefit of the rich and powerful."
We agree. And as we've said on this programme many times, defamation plaintiffs already have a huge advantage as the laws stand in Australia. Lawyers are back in court today to hash out a schedule for 9's appeal, but unless and until 9 wins, you won't get to see the story. And finally, to news from Auntie.
The ABC will introduce the new role of an internal ombudsman in an overhaul of its complaints handling procedures.
Yes, the ABC is toughening up its complaints procedures and appointing an ombudsman to review contentious decisions. So, why is it doing so? Well, mainly thanks to a programme featured on Media Watch and the way in which a complaint against it was dismissed. Exposed to Ghost Train Fire was an investigation into the infamous Luna Park blaze of 1979. And while much of it was excellent, it sensationally accused former New South Wales Premier Neville Wran of being in cahoots with a gangster.
Oh, God. That's Neville Wran.
Did you see that man with Abe Saffron?
I did. Friday night drinks.
Okay.
And in our view, without proper evidence, it also accused Wran of corruption and covering up arson.
There were very high criminals. We're dealing with the Premier or the judge or both.
The Premier was corrupted. The Premier was in touch.
He was involved, yes, big time.
The programme was slammed by Wran's supporters, including Bob Carr and former ABC Managing Director David Hill, who said the charge was preposterous without any evidence whatsoever. Wran's former advisor Milton Cockburn also made an official complaint, which the ABC rejected, on the basis that the programme had never actually made the accusations. Or as MD David Anderson put it to a Senate committee,
"They were presented as allegations, not proven facts."
But an independent editorial review then found against the programme makers on several key points, and that prompted ABC Chair Ita Buttrose to set up another review of the entire complaint system. Conducted by former SBS 7 and 10 News boss Jim Carroll and former Commonwealth Ombudsman Professor John McMillan, that review has made 11 recommendations, and the ABC has accepted them all. Ita Buttrose told RN,
"This is a board that's very determined to make sure we satisfy everybody about our complaint system. We want it to be the best in the world, and that's why we called for the review, and that's why we accepted the recommendations."
In fact, one initial recommendation was toughened up, and that was for the Ombudsman to report to the Managing Director and the Board. As Buttrose explained,
"So the Ombudsman will report direct to the Board, and the process will be separate from editorial management."
Now that is a big call, and it had former Media Watch host Jonathan Holmes asking in a passionate column in the Herald,
"What precisely are the chair of the ABC board, Ita Buttrose, and her fellow directors up to?"
And why is Holmes concerned? Well, some of the most contentious complaints to the ABC involve politics. And coalition governments in particular have been known to stack the ABC board with their political friends, who may have little or no experience of broadcasting. According to Holmes,
until the board is seen to be selected on merit from a list of people with recognised qualifications for the job recommended by a non-partisan nomination panel, as the ABC Act requires, the step will be seen as perilous.
Perhaps the answer to that would be for the new government to spill the current board and start an independent process to select a new one. But that aside, the key changes do make some sense, and they were welcomed by Cockburn, who told Media Watch,
I am very happy with the Macmillan-Carroll recommendations and the board's acceptance. They went further than I had proposed.
And Liberal Senator Andrew Bragg, a critic of the ABC complaint system, agrees, telling Media Watch,
the review has done a really good job. The ABC has exceeded my expectations.
So let's hope the ABC matches the changes with a culture that celebrates learning from its mistakes instead of denying that they've happened. In their review, Jim Carroll and John Macmillan make this pungent observation.
Our anecdotal impression, based on consultations and submissions to this review, is that the ABC often resists criticism, particularly of high-profile programs.
And they add,
the ABC also compares unfavourably with many other organisations in being forthcoming in issuing an apology in response to an adverse ruling.
That has been our experience too, painfully received, and it should not be like that. And talking about complaints, we have one of our own. The Telegraph's John Rolfe is upset about our criticism of his story on the Teal independence, which ran on the front page of the Telegraph and Herald Sun 2 weeks ago, and which was backed up by a 2-page spread inside both papers, branding them
the arrogant minority.
Rolfe's exclusive accused the Teals of being silver spoon candidates who won't come clean, and said they had arrogantly refused to properly detail where they stood on issues affecting our nation. He also suggested they were not genuine by dubbing them so-called Teal independents and wrapping the word independence in inverted commas several times. We reckoned that was a hit job, and we accused the Telegraph of breaking the golden rule of journalism that news and opinion should be separate. Rolfe says we broke a golden rule of journalism too by not coming to him for comment. Well, perhaps we should have done, but we're happy to do so now. And what does he say in his defence? He told Media Watch in an email,
the story was entirely reasonable, given the Teals did not level with voters prior to the poll on subjects they are highly likely to confront as parliamentarians. Bob Catter, Andrew Wilkie and Di Lee did, but no Teal.
Well, thanks for that, John. Next time we'll be sure to give you a call. But I'm afraid we still reckon it was a hit job, not least because the papers gave it the full front page treatment. And that is all from us for tonight. There's more on our website, where you can stream or download the programme, link to the ABC's Complaints Review, and read a statement from Milton Cockburn. And don't forget, Media Bites every Thursday. I am taking a break for the next 3 weeks. Media Watch will be in the very capable hands of Janine Perrott while I'm away. See you soon. Goodbye.